Good evening. I call to order the August 2019 legislative session of Meeting Borough Council. Please stand and join me in the salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. As we all know, there have been two truly tragic events in our nation over the past 11 days. 22 persons were killed as a result of gun violence in El Paso, Texas, and 9 were taken by gun violence in Dayton, Ohio. I ask that we have a moment of silence for those 31 victims. Thank you. Also keep in our thoughts the 6 Philadelphia police officers who were injured this past day. Some might say that these expressions or these moments of silence are just empty gestures. I disagree. I think that they are times of reflection, times of determination. If you agree with me, walk out of this meeting tonight and talk to your neighbors. Talk to your legislators, whether they're state or they're on the federal level. Get involved in local organizations or national organizations that are devoted to doing something productive about our problem in our country with guns. There is a wonderful organization here locally. It's called Delaware County United for Sensible Gun Policy, and that's a great way to get involved. So if you're unfamiliar with the organization, please look them up and understand a little bit more about this epidemic of gun violence that has affected so many of our neighbors. All right, so we have a full agenda tonight, and let's begin with a series of meeting minutes. So housekeeping matters. We have 3 sets of meeting minutes, one for a special meeting on July 11th. Do I hear a motion to approve the meeting minutes as submitted?
So,
and is there a second?
second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the special meeting minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. We also have a set of workshop meeting minutes for that same day. Do I hear a motion to approve those meeting minutes as submitted?
So moved.
And is there a second? Second. There is. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the workshop meeting minutes of July 11, 2019, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. And the last set of meeting minutes is from our July council meeting of July 18, 2019. Do I hear a motion to approve those as submitted?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the council meeting minutes from July 18, 2019 as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. So just a couple of observations. Our normal routine or normal rhythm is thrown off a little bit today because we have a couple members of council who are not present with us tonight. Typically it's Councilman Robinson who will make the motion to approve meeting minutes, and it is Councilman Sarah Dixon who does the seconding. So we're a little bit offbeat this evening. And our borough engineer is not present as well. He will be back with us next month. Oh, and Kevin Boyer's not here as well. That's right. In the midst of the scramble of chairs, I neglected to mention that Mr. Boyer's not here tonight.
My chair broke, so I took his.
But we do have a quorum, and so we can continue on. Before we have public comment and privilege of the floor, we do have a bit of a presentation or an announcement, I guess. It's sort of a tweener. Linda, why don't you come on up?
Hello, everyone, and thank you. I just wanted to present this award to Media Borough for the monthly digital newsletter that we publish with their help. Recently, we attended the National Association of Government Communicators Communication School in Washington, D.C., and Media Borough was one of about 300 entries for digital communications, and we won this award for the digital monthly newsletter. So I have to stress that this is a very collaborative effort. My company does digital communications, and it is our extreme pleasure to work with Borough Council, administration, and all of the community groups in media. We really appreciate all your help. So I'd like to present this award to Brian.
We're running out of shelf space. Linda is modest. Linda is the chief collaborator. She's the one who makes this go month in, month out. We've had this newsletter for a little over a year now. And there was a lot of thought that went into it, a lot of work, a lot of scrambling, a lot of last minute tweaking. But month in, month out, we have this wonderful product that allows us to communicate more effectively, we believe, with the residents and the businesses of the town. If you haven't yet signed up for our newsletter, please do so. Just go to the Borough website, mediaborough.com. You'll find it's very easy to add your email address there, and you will also receive this wonderful source of topical and current information concerning borough goings on. And Linda, it's really due to, I should say, it's in large part due to your efforts that we have this wonderful award.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I understand that we have some representatives from the Media Business Authority who wish to come to the microphone and say a few words. So now is a good opportunity. Mr. Khan?
Thank you very much, Borough Council members and the residents. This is our small way of giving some of our donations to local media fire company is here. Gibson is here to receive a donation from us from Dining Under the Stars, and we have a media theater. Behind me is Roger Ricker, who is involved with the media theater camp, and these donations were approved by the Board of Directors of the Media Business Authority. So it's our small way of giving back to the community and to the wonderful job that the police and the fire company and the theater does all year round. So with that, I know you have a full agenda, so I'm not going to make a big speech, but I want to have Tim Borough, who is very involved in putting this together. This scholarship goes to the media summer camp media residents, kids that are attending that camp. So they were not able to afford the camp. So this was our way of supporting the camp. And Roger, if you and Tim can comment.
Sure. Thank you.
Well, it was a great thing. We got a privilege to do this from the board, and what a nice thing to have your hand in someone's dream. I performed in Vegas for many years, and I know what a great thing this is. So for you, with that blessing.
Thank you very much.
And thank you.
Thank you. This is really very, very nice from the Media Business Authority and Borough Council to have us here. The Media Theater does provide, as you said, an opportunity for young people to chase their dreams, to follow their dreams and their goals. We had 287 campers this summer. And I didn't have anything special to give you, but I can show you this. so that you know I'm part of the camp here. But the kids that were able to use these scholarships were very appreciative. Jeremiah and Nadir, they had a wonderful time. Thank you again. Have a great night.
Thank you both, and I hope you can put this money to good use, like you will. And with that, I want to introduce Brian Messick, our president for the Media Business Authority, to give out the award. And Anthony from Fellini's is here, who also works extremely hard on every Wednesday night during Dining Under the Stars. And I do have somebody here to thank also, who is Bob McMahon, the mayor. He has not missed one Wednesday in 12 years.
I'm hungry.
So he, I just have a story to share with you. Bob was in Washington in one of his trips, not to see the Trump, but to be there for a conference. And he called me from there and he said, "You are canceling the Dining Under the Stars because I'm not going to be there." And I told him, I said, "No," I said, "we are canceling it because you're not here." So he is very much part of it, and what he has given us, the support and his attention every week, I'm very thankful. And with that, I'm going to introduce Brian Messick, our president.
And I will be very short. This is just a small token from the NBA, specifically for the Blue Stroll, for all the work that the Media Police does for us. Not only do they keep us safe, but they interact with the patrons of media, and it does make a big difference. And people see it and comment on it. So for everything that you do, we appreciate you, and here's a small token.
Good evening, everybody. I'll be brief. I'm going to accept this on behalf of the police department, but the Media Police Association. And what that is, ladies and gentlemen, during the course of the year, we accept donations such as this. And during the course of our duties, during the year, when we encounter families or individuals that are in need, we're able to help them either financially or just with dinners, clothing, and especially with the holiday seasons coming upon us sooner than later, we're able to help a lot of people. So thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. Thanks.
And now I ask Ed Gibson from the Media Fire Company to come up and accept a donation from the Dining Under the Star. Anthony.
Hello everyone, welcome. I'd like to donate, we're going to donate here $1,000 to the Media Fire Company. Let's give them a great big round of applause. A wonderful job. I understand they're all volunteers, so we're very fortunate to have them in our town, and it's an honor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Just to keep everybody informed, on behalf of Fellini and Ariana, we'd like to put a block party together, maybe Fire Prevention Week. So it's in the planning, and we're looking for some volunteers, but we're going to donate 100% of the proceeds to the Media Fire Company. So they thank you so much.
Well, with that, I just want to thank you, everybody, for showing up. And I want to thank, obviously, the council for giving us the opportunity to be able to give. And we have a big campaign on the way. Our president for the council, Brian Hall, had sent a personal note to me that the Media Fire Company needs some help from the business community specifically. So we're going to make all the effort from here to the end of the year to make sure that we continue to raise money from the businesses. And if I have to knock on each door of the businesses, I'm going to do that. So that's my word to the council. Thank you again.
All right, so we will slot in with our usual public comment and privilege of the floor. Dave, I guess you'll need to move the microphone to its usual place. If there's anybody who wishes to address council at this time, please come forward, tell us your name, the address of where you live, and what's on your mind.
Hi, my name is Abby Weiser. I live at 423 North Jackson Street, and I am a board member for Keep Media Green. And as such, we would like to invite everyone to join us in our walking tour of Media's green spaces. The walk will begin at 9 a.m. At Hoopman Park, 21 West Lincoln Street on Saturday, September 7th, with a rain date of September 14th. We'll proceed through Media, walking from green space to green space, with a tree planting and other events and presentations at each stopping point. The walk will finish at noon at the 3rd Street entrance to Glen Providence Park, where a free picnic lunch will be provided, along with music, poetry, a rally, and a green fair, and that will end at 1:30. So for more information or to register, please visit www.keepmediagreen, that's all one word, .org. Okay, so we hope to see you all there.
Thank you, Abby. Let's hope it's good weather.
Yes, we hope so.
Or, yes, please, come forward.
Hi, my name is Mary Mallory. I live at 409 West State Street. It's 2 items. I'll be brief. 2 weeks ago, at the intersection of Baltimore Pike and Orange Street, I'm sure you are aware, a woman was struck and killed. It's a busy intersection. When I walk or when I ride my bicycle, I assume I am invisible. I look both ways, and I also assume you're aiming for me. I try to be cautious. I have been to this intersection since that time. Something is wrong. I'm not going to get my north, south, east, west right. One place you go, you only have a red and a green light. The little walkie thing, and that red hand, and the 10 countdown, it's all fouled up. Pardon my language, it's fouled up. I know it's in media, it's PennDOT's responsibility. Our Mr. Manager person is not here this evening. I will not belabor the point. There's nothing else to say about that. But this needs our attention. It's not okay.
So we will have our engineer take a look at that.
I'm sure,
See
sir.
if there is any problem with the sequencing of the lot.
Simply, you need to go, you walk, you can look, it's pretty self-evident. Something else that's not, I don't like to say something that's wrong without having some idea of what to do about this. I live in Media, I'm 2 blocks away. Last night, Dining Under the Stars was not a stellar presentation. Normally, our little help tent, which is at Plum Street and by the Brick and Brew, they have a little tent. Normally, there's tablecloths on the table. There are items for sale, media sweatshirts, the little darling hats, the adorable things that little babies wear, flyers and brochures of every kind that you can imagine, advertising what we have, please come to Media. Last night, nothing. I have some free time. I know I can't clean up the trash cans, and I know I can't fix the fountain. There are more free helpers here. We could do much better. It was a lovely little speech and a donation. We kind of fell short. I don't know what is to be done about it. You know where I live, you can help, I can help. It was not our best moment last night with a little help tip, so thank you very much.
Unless I miss my guess, I think that Mr. Tom might be still outside those doors.
Well, Mary, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Now, you're saying, and I'm there, as
Sure.
you just heard, my advertisement. The shirts and hats were not on the...
There was nothing, sir.
Okay, now, Dining on the Stars yesterday was a little different than other times because, as I was going to mention soon, we weren't sure it was going to be a go or a no-go.
I understand
Because there
that.
were weather issues. So that might be a reason why they weren't there. Every other night... they're
I
there.
know. I did this a couple summers ago. You're wearing a polyester suit here. It's not glamorous. It's no fun. It's not. It's not. It's slavery.
Mary,
I moved
Mary,
in
I just like
Boston.
to argue with you.
We could have done better, sir.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anything else that you wish to address council? Please come forward. Tom.
Good evening. My name is Tom Lou. I live at 26 East 6th Street. Yeah, I'll just do this instead. So I live at 26 East 6th Street. Sarah's one of my neighbors. I wanted to give a little update and hopefully get a little update on our rat problem. So we still have rats. Saw one the other day. So we still have this problem. I guess it was about 2 weekends ago. Sarah, council person Dixon got us together. Myself, Loretta, who's also one of my neighbors sitting over here, a couple of the other neighbors, and our neighbor has a chicken coop. So we worked out an agreement of sorts that at the end of the summer, they're going to put down the chickens. I don't know a nicer way to say it, but let's just say they're going to get put down. And then we'll have a 6-month reprieve where there'll be no chickens. And they'll probably get a new flock in the spring. And there was also an offer that potentially there would be some compensation for the pests that the chicken coop attracts. So I wanted to thank Councilperson Dixon for helping make this happen. So that was very much appreciated by the neighborhood, and it definitely helped the situation. However, it was brought to our attention that there's an ordinance that's being reconsidered or rewritten. It was our understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that referencing the ordinance from Lansdowne as a possible starting point for writing the ordinance. Is that correct?
There is a proposed ordinance in Lansdowne that we looked at and
Okay.
had some ideas in it, and we thought of incorporating some of the ideas in it, but it would serve as sort of a starting point.
I think a starting point is probably a generous compliment to it. I don't think it really is an adequate starting point because there are a lot of key pieces of information that are missing. Some of the information was brought up by Lori Devlin from the Board of Health, mentioning property setbacks, how far it needs to be from a property line, which I think is a fair and neighborly consideration. Also how far it is from another person's property, also a reasonable, a lot of this stuff is neighborly type things that we have to put an ordinance in place for, because that's not always the case how people like to operate. So I was a little bit concerned there was nothing involving setbacks from property lines or setbacks from another property. So again, we're on 6. Anybody wants to come over, I can show you how densely packed it is. Michael was over the other night and I showed him how densely packed it is behind there, and you're right on top of each other. So it's tight. So I guess I just want to make sure that when we do this ordinance, that there's proper provisions for how this impacts the neighbors and how to protect the neighbors, because we ran into this issue with these rats being present. And I'm sure everybody watches the news and saw Lawncrest on NBC 10 a couple Saturdays ago. I know, Mr. Mayor, I know you were concerned about tables blowing around at Dining Under the Stars. A rat at Dining Under the Stars would be like all the tables blowing away. It would be even worse. And our situation would have been on the news if not for a neighbor of mine and Councilperson Dixon catching 7 or 8 ginormous rats, like cat-sized rats, within the first couple of days. So because of how the neighbors reacted and responded, we didn't have a bigger problem. You didn't have a bigger problem. Everyone here didn't have a bigger problem. So we did our part, and we're looking for the ordinance to be written properly. I don't think it's a matter of eliminating chicken coops. I don't know if that's really the path forward. However, there needs to be provisions in place to protect neighbors. I know we talked about a licensing, but I think there needs to be even a contract with a pest control company when there are pests, so it can be mitigated and remedied quickly. So I just want to make sure that provisions such as how problems will be mitigated, arbitrated, whatever you want to put it, how they're going to be dealt with is included, because that's missing. I mean, there's teeth missing from that argument. There's no, I think it says female chickens only. I don't think there was even any size reference as to how big the coops could be. I think there's just a lot of information missing that is somewhat beneficial for the chicken coop owners, doesn't put them out, but also helps protect the neighbors and the neighborhoods. And that's really what I'm trying to do. And I think last time, I think we're kind of modifying our conversation here, but I just want to make sure the neighbors are being protected and considered in whatever ordinance is written. I think that's a fair request, and I think the Lansdowne ordinance is a very poor attempt at that. So is that something that's on the radar?
Yes, assuming that tonight we vote in favor of moving forward with amending our ordinance. I expect that we will. Then we will be back with the CDC, and then we will encourage as many persons who wish to come forward and offer suggestions about what should be in the ordinance, how it ought to be phrased. Absolutely.
Will the suggestions made by the Board of Health that they found with Penn State Extension, will those be incorporated? Because none of that stuff is anywhere near what's mentioned in the Lansdowne. And I mean, if we have a Board of Health, I'm assuming they would be considered. They haven't been so far, but I'm assuming they would be.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Okay, the way this works is I don't draft ordinances until council authorizes me to do so. That just starts a working draft process. What I draft is not necessarily what gets enacted. it's something to present to them, and then they say yes or no, change this or that. So why don't, if the vote is favorable tonight, I think at the next CDC meeting, we should have a discussion about what you want in it. I think that the Lansdowne ordinance is something to use as a starting point. I believe Mr. Jeffrey had some other examples. At that point, you give me a checklist of what you want to see.
And so Mr. Jeffrey has been looking at other ordinances, and many of those ordinances do have those setback requirements. So that's kind of cooking as well.
One other thing, the other question I have with the ordinance is, actually, Mr. Scott, you might be involved as well, is how will it be enforced? And, is this going to have to be someone that's hired outside of the borough? Just trying to understand what the costs are too, because I think that's an important part of this, in that you're going to have to pay for developing a protocol. You're obviously paying to write an ordinance. You're going to have to pay someone to monitor it. I'm assuming it'll be somebody in addition to Mr. Jeffries that would do this, or he's going to have to receive training in terms of what to look for. So I'm just want to make sure that all factors are really being considered, the cost to the borough. And again, really, I'm just trying to protect myself and my neighbors. I mean, I think we did a good job, so I'm looking for you guys to do the same.
All excellent suggestions. And I expect that when we have our meetings, that you and other of your neighbors will give us some equally good suggestions. And we will work our best to incorporate them into an ordinance.
President Hall, if, I think the CDC meeting is toward the end of the day, but it is sort of during work hours. So we accept written commentary, don't we?
We do.
So yeah, if you can't make it to the meeting, please put it together in an email and send it to Jeff Smith, our manager.
Sure.
And they'll review it as if you were there.
Okay.
Yeah, Tom, you were present at the meeting that we had with the neighbors on 8th Street about sidewalks. And I think you might remember how it is that some of the residents there came in with the thought that government is going to listen to us. This is all going to happen. The wheels are already greased on this. And they were pleasantly surprised to find out that their concerns were heard, and it did change the way that we thought about that program. I expect that with the assistance of neighbors, such as yourself, that we will have a full discussion about all of these things, and that at the end of the day, we will have an ordinance that will be satisfactory to you and to our professionals as well as the council.
Understood. One other thing, is there any way I can get an update on the citations that have been issued for the neighboring properties? And also there's that one eyesore on 5th Street that everybody kind of knows about, the abandoned apartment complex. And is there any way to find out what's been done with those citations, or how does that go?
I don't know myself.
Is there a record of it somewhere?
Well, if a citation was issued, and I'm not involved in citations and written, so I don't know what has happened, what hasn't. But that's a written document, I think it's filed with the court. But in general, like under the Right to Know Act, we're not required to disclose records of ongoing prosecutions. I don't have any objection to, if you have a question, calling Mr. Jeffrey, and he'll tell you what he believes he can tell you.
Okay. All right, I'll do that next. All right, thanks for the time. Need the tall microphone.
We'll put that in the budget.
Michael Straw, 499 West Jefferson Street, apartment 507. The first topic, I have two topics that I wanted to bring up. A couple of days ago, I was driving on my route to the office, and I looked over to my left and I saw Monroe Street at one point was closed, and I saw a toothpick, not a tree, and I saw that the tree near John's was being taken down, and I understand that, it can affect sidewalks and whatnot, but one thing I was wondering was if we were going to consider replacing the tree with a new tree.
Councilwoman Amy Johnson.
Yes, that's always the effort, is to replace tree, and I believe that's the one outside of Kavanaugh Funeral Home.
I think so.
It's a large oak, so of course you feel the absence of something that large especially, so yes, that's always the goal, is to replace the tree.
Okay, perfect. And the last thing I wanted to bring up is more of a public service announcement a couple of weeks ago. I saw it on Facebook. An individual posted at the same time my partner and I were at Glen Providence Park that I witnessed two children about the age of 8 or 9 walked into the stream and walked down the stream bed, and apparently, and it happened, a storm occurred, and the storm, but thankfully the individual on Facebook, I don't want to mention their name, they told the children beforehand to get out. The children at first, they said in the Facebook post, were skeptical, but they did, and another one of our, torrential floods occurred. And so I just want to, remind people, don't go into the stream beds. You never know when something bad could happen. And thankfully, no one was washed away in this incident. But there's no signage there. It's a county park. But be mindful. Don't walk into the stream beds.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else wish to address council? Yes, please. Take your time.
Okay, I live at 525 North Monroe Street, the corner of 6th and Monroe. And I'm going to say about 10 years ago, I came home from
Not to interrupt you, but I'm sorry. Over here.
Name?
Yes, name.
Lynn Cohn.
I asked not to be intrusive, but we're required under state law.
I came home from work. And there was this tree that appeared. It was planted right in the corner. And I thought that's strange. Nobody asked me or notified me or said anything. So I thought, okay. So it's a flowering cherry, and it is a beautiful tree. It really is. The problem with a flowering cherry, and the reason I'm bringing this here to you, Amy, is to let you know that flowering cherries' roots don't go down. They go sideways, and they strangle whatever is in their path. I don't know if they aim for other trees and other bushes. I don't know. All I know is that this shrub was the first thing here that I noticed because it started dying. It was turning black and dying, and I checked for insects and everything else and nothing. And then I noticed a root. And so I cut the root and pulled it up, and my shrub came back to life. Stopped dying, and it was rejuvenated. So this year, when I noticed my red maple tree, which I had planted probably 25 years ago when it was a seedling, and I nurtured it and trimmed it and did everything to make sure it would be a pretty tree, is dying. So I found two roots here, here, and I cut them with a reciprocating saw, and 2 days later, these are the sprouts that came out on the red maple. And that told me that I was right, that those roots were killing my red maple. So the tree warden came and with the tree committee, and he decided that it was a perfectly healthy tree and there was no reason to take it down. Well, my sidewalks have come up 7 inches. I've patched them 3 times. It's a real tripping hazard. I mean, I spray painted them bright yellow so people would see. And now there's shoots coming out from underneath the sidewalk, from the roots. The roots are that are under the sidewalk, about this big around. They're not little roots, they're huge. And so they're growing, and it keeps pushing the sidewalk up. So what I'd like to suggest is that you approve taking this tree down, grinding the roots, and replace it with a tree whose roots go down instead of out. That's, I'm not asking for everything here, just that. My insurance company notified me that if I do not replace the sidewalk, that they're going to cancel my homeowner's insurance. Great. So I talked to the guy that's going to do the sidewalk, that's done all my sidewalk replacements whenever I have to replace them, and I have 250 feet. So he said that he can get what's it called, that comes in a root grinder that'll actually grind up those roots and take care of them. But he can't do it until we know whether or not the borough will approve taking this tree down.
All right. Amy, looks like the spotlight's on you.
Well, thank you for coming out. I know that the tree commission has come out to look at the tree. And Don Jackson, our tree warden, as you can imagine, we have many trees that we have to look at. And so, of course, the health of the tree, you know, among other issues, you know, especially safety concerns, is something that we value. And so we love, you know, we get a lot of, there are a lot of challenges, and we hear from residents about wanting trees to come down, but we also hear from our residents that we're taking too many trees down. So we need to balance our decision-making around taking trees down. I'm very familiar with the flowering cherry. I have one outside my home that I've had to replace sidewalks with, so I understand what the root systems can do. So what I can suggest, actually, I know that the tree commission has plans to come and look at this tree again and the surrounding plants that you're talking of. I also want to remind you about our reimbursement program. It sounds like you've replaced these.
These were replacements for when the original tree was there.
Okay,
and you can see that where my sidewalk is cut in.
So you've replaced one, from this cherry tree, you've already replaced the sidewalk?
No, before the cherry
Okay, so
tree.
before the cherry.
I replaced.
So
the
you're
sidewalk.
familiar with the 50% reimbursement that we will replace, that we will reimburse 50% of this?
Okay.
Okay, regardless if the tree comes down or not, I just wanted to remind you of that.
Okay, all right.
So
I only have 30 days or my insurance gets canceled, so. I'm
right,
sure
so
I'm
you,
really done.
yeah. So what I will suggest, I will talk to Don and Kathy Larissa, who is the chair of our shade tree, to come back out, look at this, look at your tree, and reevaluate their decision. I will talk to them about your concerns. It sounds like there's numerous issues, and we'll try to contact you so that you'll be home when they come out.
Okay, because they can't put in the sidewalk.
They can't
roots, they can't replace the sidewalk until the roots are gone.
I understand.
So that's the issue. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. Does anybody else wish to address council at this time? Seeing that there are no further takers, we'll move along then. We do not have an engineer's report because we do not have an engineer here this evening. But we do have a solicitor, so we can expect his report.
Which is not much of a report. I don't have anything to report, thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for our solicitor at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to
I will be requesting a brief executive session on a property transaction potential property transaction.
All right, and we'll meet to discuss that after tonight's proceedings. Mr. May.
Sure. During the month of July, the police department handled a total of 826 complaints. We were talking about dining on the stars before. As everyone knows, media has become very visible. We get ourselves on TV an awful lot. The social media has been talking about our events, etc. So we wanted to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect our visitors and our residents at these events. So we held a meeting with the first responders and got their ideas. And we'll report later on some that we want to make public as to what we're doing to make sure everybody is safe and everybody feels safe when they go to these events. Also, on Dining Under the Stars, we had an unusual year weather-wise. I mean, Zubair and I, and from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock every Wednesday, are we a go or are we not a go? And Wednesday happened to be another one of those days. And I thank the Media Business Authority for, we have to make a decision by 1 o'clock on whether we're having officers there, because they have to know if they're going to be working that night or not. So you decided that, or MBA decided that they will pay the officers regardless of whether we're to go, because we were still uncertain about Wednesday. And these are difficult decisions sometimes. So as it got to around 3 o'clock, it looked like we're a go, and that's it. And then the rains came at 9 o'clock. I was there at 8:30. And you said that everybody got out of the way, and so it wound up being a good night. The communication has gotten an awful lot better. All the restaurants seem to be, I guess, on board with what we're doing. So we're getting there. Not perfect, but we're getting there. You're supposed to comment now.
I just wanted to
Okay, I
add.
just wanted to give you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that we actually are volunteers that are there, and along with the police, we went door to door and informing people that the storm is coming in 15-20 minutes. Move all the people who are having dinners outside, move them inside and get ready. So we were very successful in that, and everybody kind of cooperated, and they all understand that it's nature's call. Has nothing to do what we do, but it is very challenging every Wednesday, and especially the kind of year that we are having with the weather. Actually, one of the restaurateurs was joking with me, and he said, "Why can't we change that to Tuesday night?" So
Because it rains every Wednesday.
It rains every Wednesday. So in any event, last night was packed. Even with the weather the way it was, there were a lot of people, and the restaurant did really, really well. And thanks for all the stuff that you do to make us.
Well, I skipped out at 8:30. I don't like getting wet. So.
Yeah,
I left.
yeah, that was very wise.
Yeah. All right. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does anyone have any questions for the mayor at this time? I do. Mr. Mayor, you mentioned 826 complaints, and it seems like every year around this time somebody might ask the question. Well, that seems like an awful lot of complaints. Actually, it's fairly typical for a month in, month out. But do you care to explain what the complaints involve?
Well, first of all, and today, and this is part of the meeting that we had, there are so many, I guess, so many different aspects to policing. And we encourage everybody to, when you see something, call. So we get a lot more calls than I guess we used to because we ask for it. And anybody that sees something suspicious, they call. There are more incidents, I would say, late at night on State Street, the 12 to 2 o'clock group. Some of them are fighting over which Uber, some of them are called. I mean, there's just a lot of different things that we didn't used to have to deal with. And again, there are more people in the bars at those hours. So the officers have been very busy, and I don't know when you mark them down as complaints and when you don't. But yeah, activities have increased. Did I explain that?
I think so. I mean, a significant number of what we list as complaints are things such as people asking a patrolman for directions, or just how do I get from here to there. So that's where the bulk of these things are. It's community service. But they do it wonderfully. All right, let's round out the questions for the mayor. We'll move along to Properties, Public Works, and Fire. Councilman Robinson is not here tonight. He asked me to make his motions, and I will do so, but I'm going to rely considerably on our manager. Item number 1 is authorizing the borough engineer to advertise maintenance bids for road work, including storm sewers, sidewalks, and borough-owned facilities. Mr. Smith, you care to chime in?
Sure. The Public Works Director and Borough Engineer had made the recommendation to the Properties Committee to advertise bids so that they would have contractors who would be available to do work such as some storm sewer rehab. There's a number of borough-owned properties that are in need of some sidewalk replacement. And then also at the Borough Hall, things such as when you walk out of this building, there tends to be some ponding, different things like that. So again, they had recommended that council authorize them to advertise maintenance bids / contracts. So essentially, the Properties Committee is recommending the council proceed with that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. So I make that in the form of a motion.
Okay, all those in favor? Sorry, is there a second motion?
Second.
All those in favor of authorizing the borough engineer to advertise maintenance bids for road work, sidewalks, and borough-owned facilities, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
I think it's a good thing that we have this type of fallback it gives us more flexibility to respond more quickly to problems that arise. The streets department does an awful lot here. Sometimes things happen, especially with the problems we have with roads nowadays with so much rainwater and difficult weather. And it's very useful to have somebody who does this regularly on hand, so that we need to have that type of work done quickly. They can do it and do it at a very high level. Item number 2 is authorizing the advertisement of bids for police sally port at Borough Hall. This is sort of an extension to the existing police structure. It serves as a kind of it will serve as kind of a transition between outside the police department facility and inside the police department facility. It allowed for more secure handling of suspects. And all we're doing tonight is authorizing the advertisement of bids for the structure. So I make that in the form of a motion.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes, I have a question. When we tried this a year or two ago, the bids came in at twice the amount we had budgeted. So we decided to do a redo on that. So my question is, what criteria has changed to bring down the bids?
I think that's a question for our manager, Mr. Smith.
Yes, so the buildings architect, Mr. Bob Lynn, met with the chief, and they're in the process of developing a scale and magnitude and size. At this point, the thought process, I believe, and I want to speak on the chief's behalf, was to at least authorize the advertisement to put the wheels in motion to put something together. I don't believe the chief has come up with the scale and size as of yet, but at least this would allow them to kind of get the ball rolling, to get the dialogue going and get it out to bid. But I personally don't have a response right now on exactly what's being proposed, other than council had approved a budget of $252,000 for the structure, which Mr. Lynn is aware of as well as the chief.
So what exactly will we advertise? If they don't know the criteria, will they bid on something like that?
At this point, it's just a matter, all you're doing is when the time comes, after the Properties Committee and Public Safety Committee have an opportunity to take a look at it, it would just allow the bid to go out. Any type of contracts that exceed $20,000, council is required to go out and get competitive bids. So I think that the thought process was, for the chief and the architect, was to at least get the ball rolling, so when they are ready, after the two committees have had an opportunity to look at it, they could hit the ground running. That's the best I can offer. Really, the chief would probably be able to answer a little bit better on some of the details of what he would like to see in the form of a sally port there.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we spend enough time up front so we get what we need at the price we want.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Okay, we'll call the question. All those in favor of authorizing the advertisement of bids for police sally port at Borough Hall, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes.
And again, this doesn't commit the borough to doing anything, but it does put us in a position that once the specs are available, then we can move forward as quickly as possible. This is a project that we thought we would be working on last year, so time is something of an issue. Item number 3, this is a proposal to propose award for bioretention infiltration stormwater best management practices at West Jefferson and South Holland Streets. And I confess, Jeff, I'm going to have to rely upon you a lot for this one.
Sure, no problem. Borough Council previously had authorized the development of a comprehensive stormwater management study, and as part of that, the borough's grants administrator has secured a grant to do a couple of things, and I won't explain it nearly as well as the borough engineer will. But essentially, it's a green stormwater management, specifically what they call continuous tree trenches, as well as some bulb outs that will capture the water and will green up essentially where there's asphalt right now. So the borough received a grant for that from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So in order to put the wheels in motion on that, there was 3 proposals that were received to do the engineering, and the recommendation from the Public Works Committee is McCormick Taylor to do the engineering work associated with that. So essentially what you would be doing is authorizing McCormick Taylor to move forward with the design in order to move forward with the grant that was received for it.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Can I make that in the form of a motion?
Motion's been made, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of authorizing McCormick and Taylor for the bioretention and infiltration stormwater best management practices at West Jefferson and South Olive Street, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it.
And that's all I have on Mr. Robinson's portion of the agenda. I think at this point he does regularly make a request that all those who are interested in volunteering for the media fire company, that they do so. They do wonderful work. Last month, we were their guests at the fire company, and they gave us a tour of all of what they do and the equipment that they have to do it, both the fire company as well as the emergency, the EMS. And it is quite impressive. They do need our support though. So every year they have fundraising drives, and Mr. Khan was here earlier today, and the Media Business Authority has donated a significant sum of money to the fire company. But it is a community-supported organization. It is a fire company. It is not a fire department. It is supported by you, me, by the businesses in our community. And in order for them to continue doing their wonderful work, they do need our support. So please think about that, especially since we're getting towards that time of year when many of us think about annual donations to charitable and other types of organizations. They should be near the top, if not at the top of your list. If there are any questions concerning Mr. Robinson's portion of the agenda, we'll move along to Councilwoman Lisa Johnson and her portion of the agenda.
Thank you. The first item on my agenda is a mass gathering permit application for Keep Media Green walking tour, which having described for you, I won't repeat everything. But on Saturday, September 7th, with a rain date of September 14th. This is located at the bottom of 3rd Street, just past West Street. It's a closed section of 3rd Street. And there's going to be a small sound system for a 30-minute program. Environmental groups will set up information tables. Picnic and food and drinks will be held on the Delaware County Park property, which is the grassy part next to the road. They expect about 50 to 100 people. So I make a motion to approve the mass gathering permit application for Keep Media Green Fair event. Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the mass gathering permit application for the Keep Media Green walking tour for Saturday, September 7th, with a rain date the following Saturday, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
One thing I was supposed to remind the organizers is that they've been allowed to use the bathrooms here at Borough Hall Council, but they have to keep them clean. And also, there was some discussion about planting a tree at one of the locations. Was that resolved?
I believe it has
And
been.
I'm not in Manchester Park.
So is that taken care of? Is there a plan to do that?
Yes, there is a plan.
Okay, great. All right, so that's number one. Second item on my agenda is a mass gathering permit application adjustment, I'll call it. The Dining Under the Stars application has certainly been approved, but they would like to have 2 Saturdays approved. One is September 14th, and the other is September 28th, to make up for some rain dates that we've had. Same event, it's just on different days. So I make that in the form of a motion.
Motion to date, it has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the mass gathering permit application for the Dining Under the Stars event on Saturday, September 14th and Saturday, September 28th, these are rain dates, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. I lost my agenda. I don't have my glasses tonight, so I'm having a hard time. Third item is the resignation of Dan Levin from the Media Business Authority's board. His term expires at the end of 2021. But unfortunately, Dan is a very busy person and is not able to keep up with the obligations, though he's still willing to help out and volunteer when he can. So I make a motion to accept Dan's resignation from the NBA board. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? As is usual, we accept resignations regretfully. But I'll call the question. All those in favor of accepting the resignation of Dan Lyvins from the Media Business Authority before a term that expires at the end of 2021, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Fourth item is to authorize our borough engineer to advertise bids for an emergency backup generators at signalized traffic intersections. This is a result of a grant we applied for and received called Green Light Go. I believe last year we got this grant, so we'd like to take advantage of that and look for bids for emergency backup generators. Make that in the form of a motion.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
There is. Any discussion concerning the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of authorizing the borough engineer to advertise bids for emergency backup generators at signalized traffic intersections in the borough, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Fifth item is to authorize our solicitor to draft a traffic ordinance amendment. This is more housekeeping because we're planning on implementing a software system called Passport for parking permits and enforcement. And as a result of doing that, some of the things in our current ordinance will need to change or be eliminated. So that'll be drafted if we authorize our solicitor to do that. So I make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of authorizing our solicitor to draft traffic ordinance amendments pertaining to the implementation of the Passport parking program for parking permits and enforcement, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. My last item on my agenda is the hiring of a consultant for the creation of a traffic calming plan. Now, most of us can agree that our traffic situation in our borough is could use some help. So we have a great grant writer, and she was able to get us a grant to help us pay for a plan to calm our traffic. And so the Public Safety Committee was given the task to review the proposals that were sent into the borough. We had 10 of them. And we reviewed them all carefully, and we chose 3 organizations out of the 10 to actually interview. And all 3 organizations were excellent, and they all 3 were unique, so we had a challenge to figure out which one to pick. And we decided on a company called TPD, Traffic Planning and Design, Inc. We think they'll do a great job. They're a consulting firm for over 30 years, and they have experience with PennDOT and other municipalities around traffic calming. And they'll also work with our wayfinding plan that we established several years ago, and merge those 2 together to help traffic and people and bikes and whatever meander through the town in an organized fashion. So we're kicking the project off this fall, and should be done, the plan should be done by May. And the Public Safety Committee, of which I chair, will oversee the process and make sure that we're successful with everything we intend to get accomplished. The cost of the project is approximately $103,000, but I've mentioned to you, most of that is covered by a grant. So we're excited about that. So I'll keep you up to date on how we're making out, and we're looking for working on creating a great plan. That's all I have.
Well, We have a motion.
I'm so, do I need a motion? Oh. I'd like to make a motion to hire the consultants TPD to work on our traffic planning, traffic calming plan.
Second.
Motion's been made and it's been seconded and exhaustively detailed by Councilman Lisa Johnson, so I assume that there are not going to be any questions, but if there are, now's the time to ask them.
No, I just have a discussion point. I just want to offer my compliments to Councilwoman Johnson for the process. I think we selected a good person because you had a good process.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor of hiring TPD Inc. for the creation of a traffic calming plan for the figure of approximately $103,000, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Are there any questions for Councilwoman Lisa Johnson? Hearing none, we move along to Councilwoman Vice President Amy Johnson.
Thank you. I'll be short and sweet. Nothing legislative on my portion of the agenda, but as always, I'd like to remind everybody about the Media Farmers Market, which is held every Sunday from 10 to 2 between Front and State Street. So come out, support local, and buy fresh. That concludes my report.
Okay, let's just breathe that one in for a moment. Does anyone have any questions for Councilwoman Amy Johnson? Hearing none, then we'll move along to my portion of the agenda. I have a few items for legislative action and hope to go through them fairly quickly. Item number 1 concerns the regulation of chicken coops in the borough, and all we're doing tonight is taking a vote to authorize our solicitor to begin the process of drafting ordinance amendments pertaining to regulating chicken coops in the borough. Those of you who have followed us over the past couple of months know that this has become something of a hot topic for some of our residents, and through the past couple of months we've recognized that our ordinance is not a model of clarity. I think that's how our solicitor has put it, and that it does need some work. And that's what we intend to do by this motion. This gets the ball rolling so that we can change our ordinance in a way that is more comprehensive and is more effective. So I move that we authorize the solicitor to draft such an ordinance.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded twice. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor of authorizing our solicitor to draft an ordinance amendment pertaining to the regulation of chicken coops, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 2 is somewhat related to item number 1. It's a motion to authorize our solicitor to draft a different amendment, this to our stormwater management ordinance, and this would require pest control measures for any time that there is earth being disturbed, whether it's demolishing an existing structure or building on an empty lot. At present, we don't have such a requirement. Our health officer, Lori Devlin, suggested that this would be a very good addition to our existing ordinances because it provides a measure of pest control that currently we don't have in the borough. At present, with our changing climate, our changing environment, the change in the amount of water that we receive, it appears as if pest control will become increasingly important, and this gives us another tool in our toolbox to help reduce problems with pests. One thing that I've learned through this process is that whenever you disturb the earth, you also disturb denizens of the earth, including rodents. And so they regard that as an eviction notice, and they tend to go elsewhere. This ordinance will help get a measure of control on those lots before the earth gets disturbed. So I make the motion.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of authorizing our solicitor to draft an amendment to the stormwater management ordinance to require pest control measures for applications for earth disturbances, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
I imagine that once these are authorized, we'll work our way through at the CDC level. So those of you who are interested, please keep an eye out for our agendas, and this will soon be appearing on our agenda.
When is the next meeting?
It's likely that's not going to be until September.
The CDC?
The CDC.
It's the fourth Thursday every month.
It's the fourth Thursday every month, but at times, because of logistics, it gets moved. This might be one of those months.
When will we know if it's the 29th? 29th would be the 4th.
I don't recall the exact date, but
27th.
27th?
27th.
Okay.
It will be the 27th?
No, that's when it's
So
scheduled.
that's when it's
Present.
scheduled, okay.
So we should know either by the end of this week or beginning of next week.
Will it move to the 4th Tuesday of September, or will it be held?
It'll be held as regularly scheduled date
Okay,
in
so
September.
August will just be skipped.
That could be the case. So just keep a quick look, good look out, or just email me or Mr. Smith, and we'll let you know. Okay. Item number 3. This is authorizing our solicitor to draft some additional zoning ordinance amendments or zoning ordinance amendments. He's going to be busy coming out of this meeting, sharpening up his pencil. This ordinance amendment deals with pergolas and residential fence regulations. Pergolas are something that you know when you see them. They're kind of hard to describe. I actually looked up the definition. A pergola, you might think of it as an arbor. It's sort of an outdoor walkway or sitting area that often has lattices on it, so you have vines that grow up. And it's quite a nice place to sit and read or just enjoy the day. At the present time, pergolas must comply with the setback requirements of any structure in the borough. And recently we had a gentleman down South Street who wished to have a pergola at the front of his house. He had to go through the entire zoning process, which takes time and it takes money. We thought that that was a bit onerous, and we thought that it would make sense to treat pergolas the same way that we treat porches. Porches in the borough, you are now permitted to put a porch into your front yard setback, so long as it doesn't occupy more than 1/3 of your front yard setback. So if you have a 20-foot, I'll make it easy, 21-foot front yard setback, you can put a porch that projects 7 feet into that front yard setback. What this motion would authorize the solicitor to do is to amend our existing ordinance so that pergolas are treated the same way as we treat porches, so that you could have a pergola out front of your house to its similar dimensions as you would with a porch. That's one part of this ordinance, or these ordinance amendments. Mr. Scott, do you recommend that we take these in turn or that we do them together? Usually you say, I think you say separate them out.
Yeah, generally, well, separate them out if people have different, you anticipate different views on them. You want to do them in one motion?
I'll just do them in 2 motions, just to make it cleaner. So I make that in the form of a motion.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
What am I seconding?
This is on the pergola.
Two at the same time? Or
No, just the one, just the...
So authorizing for the amendment for pergolas.
So understood and so seconded.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of authorizing the solicitor to draft zoning ordinance amendments for pergolas, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
And again, to emphasize, this is authorizing our solicitor to draft an ordinance, which will then be vetted at various levels, including through the Planning Commission. So there'll be opportunities for those who wish to comment on this to do so. The second part of this is a zoning ordinance amendment with regard to residential fence regulations. This has occasioned a bit of discussion among council, and I think it's fair to say that it's Councilman Robinson who had most to say in opposition, and I'll do my best to try to advance his arguments against this amending our ordinance. At the present time, you are any property owner in the residential section. Actually, I think it's all zoning districts with the exception of our industrial section. If you own a property, you may have a fence in your front yard, you may have a fence along your side yard, you may have a fence along your backyard, but they're different sizes. For the front yard, it can be no more than 4 feet. For the side and backyards, it can be no more than 6 feet. If you want a taller fence than that, you have to go through the zoning process. That's the existing ordinance in a nutshell. There is something of a hole or an ambiguity in our ordinance, which is how do we treat corner properties? Because corner properties effectively have 2 front yards, if you think about it. 2 sides of the house are directly opposite a street. Under our current ordinance, the owner of a corner property could effectively have a 6-foot-high fence along one side of their house, right along the sidewalk, which seems fairly high in a town that's as closely knit as Media Borough. There was some concern that was voiced by Councilman Robinson that we are taking away a right of property owners of corner lots, and I think that is so. However, the practical effect of allowing a 6-foot-high fence along the sidewalk is that everybody else along that same street now has a stockade to look out onto. Whereas everybody else has a front yard that could have a 4-foot-high fence or no fence. Now there's somebody on that same block that has a 6-foot-high fence. And 6 foot does make a difference. So the CDC, or I should say those 2 feet do make a difference. The CDC looked at this, and the recommendation from the CDC was to modify our ordinance such that in a corner property, a fence along either of the 2 sides that run along a street or sidewalk can be no more than 4 feet high. And that's the motion.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, just a point of clarity, Mr. President. I believe that in a situation like this, any existing fences that may be erected today will not, you don't have to take them down, right?
That's
It's
correct.
prospective, not retrospective. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Second. Okay. All those in favor of authorizing the solicitor to draft zoning ordinance amendments for residential fence regulations, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we're finally getting to something that doesn't require a solicitor to take a pen to paper. Item number 4 is ratifying the execution of a grant agreement for a CDBG grant. This is for funds for decorative lighting along Orange Street from Baltimore Avenue down to Lincoln Street, basically down to the train station. The train station is not in Media, it's actually up in Providence, so Lincoln Street is as far as we can go while remaining in Media. And twice a year, we as a borough have an opportunity to apply for CDBG grants. Those are federal grants that are administered through the county, and these are for projects that can service mass transit, and this is one of those projects. So in order for us and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Smith, we have been granted the money. So in order to get the money, we have to ratify the agreement, correct?
Correct.
So that's what we're doing tonight. We're moving to allow me to sign a document that allows us to move forward with this project. So that's the motion.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor of ratifying execution of a grant agreement for community development block grant funds for decorative lighting along Orange Street from Baltimore Avenue to Lincoln Street, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
I must give credit where credit is due. Karen Taussig-Lux, who was our Cracker Jack grants writer, did a wonderful job in securing these funds for us. So they're not always easy to get. And for those of you who are concerned that decorative lights might mean that we have strands of Christmas tree lights, that's not so. These are lights that are similar to the lights that you see on State Street. They provide a street light, but they're not the Cobra heads. They look nicer. Item number 5 is a motion to authorize the advertisement of bids for the wayfinding signage project. This was mentioned, I think, by Councilman Lisa Johnson earlier today. A couple of years ago, the council approved a wayfinding signage project. Many people who come to Media Borough for the first time have found that it's not as easy to navigate as you might think. And for those of us who sometimes are out there mowing our lawns and are hailed over by drivers who are looking where the courthouse is, we understand that there is a need for a more rational form of wayfinding in the borough. The wayfinding signage project also incorporates pedestrian amenities such as crosswalks, etc., that should help improve public safety. Again, we've been fortunate through the good efforts of Karen Lux to secure a significant amount of money to move forward with this project. Mr. Smith, I know it's several hundreds of thousands of dollars. Do you have the exact figure at hand?
Yes, it's $433,376.
So in order to move forward with this project and make use of that money, we need to go out to bid. So that's what this motion does. It authorizes us to go out to bid so that we can get working on that wayfinding signage project.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of authorizing the advertisement of bids for the wayfinding signage project, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
And last but not least, we have a gentleman who's sitting here and has been sitting here very quietly for quite some time. Mr. Lynn, this does involve you, number 6. It's a preliminary land development application for a hotel at the former Little Inn property in Upper Providence Township. I'll repeat that, in Upper Providence Township. The vast majority of this project is in Upper Providence. There is a sliver of the property that is in Media. It runs along Summer Street. At present, the portion that is in Media is entirely, as I recall, Mr. Lynn, it's entirely tarmac. Maybe sort of some weeds strewn along the tarmac. And there are a couple of curb cuts, ramps, if you will, that have functioned for years as shortcuts to get onto State Road. The hotel project has gone through the entire process at Upper Providence, and it has been green-lighted by Upper Providence. Do I have that correct, Mr. Lynn?
It's received preliminary land development approval for Upper Providence, correct?
All right, so it's near the finish line.
Correct.
But there's that little sliver that's in Media Borough that you're seeking approval, both preliminary and final. If you could, just summarize for us what that little sliver will become once the project is done.
Well, you're correct in everything you said. The site's 1.6 acres apiece, and Media Borough is 0.2 acres, so it's indeed a sliver. It's currently, as you indicated, 96% impervious, and this application actually reduces the paving to 55% impervious. And the other indication was there are 2 curb cuts actually in Media Borough, one of them immediately to the easterly side of the Ironworkers Bank on State, and it's a very dangerous curb cut because you can't see. And the other one is a continuous curb cut on Summer that's being closed, so they're both being closed, so there won't be any direct access to Media Borough, partially at the request of the residents down on Summer and Spring Street and towards the Cherry Street field. That's basically the essence of the project. The only thing that is developed in Media Borough are there's some parking spaces, there's no building physically. It was recommended at the last Planning Commission meeting in the borough unanimously to be approved with no conditions attached to it to Borough Council. It has also been in front of CDC, as you're aware, in June, so it's moved through several steps. It's been about a year and a half now at this point.
And as I recall, the Planning Commission also recommended that the sole waiver be requested, which was for final.
Combining preliminary and final into one, because theoretically you go through a process of 2 separate events.
Right, and they agreed with that request. So I make the motion that we approve the preliminary final land development application for that little sliver of the hotel property that will be on State State Road.
Motion's made. Is there a second? Second. Okay, is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of approving the preliminary final land development application for a hotel at former Little Inn property in Upper Providence Township, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. As an informational point, the existing building is scheduled to be removed next week. So the existing Little Inn building that's been there for 40-some years is going to be demolished next week. Finally.
Take pictures. That's all I have for legislative action. There was one announcement. For those of you who have not yet done so, please go down to the Mac Gallery, which is at the foot of State Street, where it meets with Baltimore Avenue. They have quite an interesting show right now. The theme of that is the Mariner 2 pipeline. I know that that's something that is of great interest to many of the surrounding community, as well as many who live in our community. It's a great opportunity to see how others in the artistic community are thinking about that development. So please head on down there. Check the MAC's website for its the times in which the gallery is open. That's all I got.
Any questions for President Hall?
Yeah, I have one question.
Sure.
I should have asked that earlier. The amendment on the stormwater management ordinance for earth disturbances, might there be other places that need to be modified? I'm just thinking, like, if the earth is disturbed, it might not have anything to do with stormwater. Is there another place in our ordinances that this this amendment would have to be added into as well? Like, for example, building a house.
Well, I think right now, the stormwater ordinance has earth disturbance thresholds in it, which require you to do different things depending on how much is being disturbed. So it struck me that that one is we put in there that any earth disturbance for any building project. I don't think that somebody tilling a garden is what you want to do here, but any building project that results in earth disturbance requires erosion control. I think that's the right place for it. I think it accomplishes it by putting it there. I mean, that's the ordinance that regulates earth disturbance.
Okay.
I don't see the need for some standalone separate.
Okay, thanks.
Actually, to take that back, I do have something else I wanted to mention. As I try to do every month, I encourage everybody to subscribe to Media's e-newsletter. It's very easy to do. All you need to do is go on the Borough website and contribute your email address. And that's pretty much it. Am I right about that, Karen? It costs you nothing. And in exchange for nothing, you do get a wonderful source of current information about the goings on in the borough. So don't let anyone ever tell you that you don't get something for nothing. You can get something for nothing. And for those of you who are not here at the beginning part of our meeting, there's a reason why we have this little fellow or gal. This was an award that we received. It's a national award. I feel like I'm channeling Terry McGavin from Christmas Story. It's a national award. It's a major award. This is an award from a national organization for the quality of our newsletter. We've only had it for a little over a year, and it's already been nationally recognized by the NAGC, which is an unfortunate acronym, but such as it is. So please sign up for it if you have not done so already. Councilman Boyer is not present this evening, but I understand that Councilman Dixon is going to pitch in for him this evening.
Yes, he's asked, yes, thank you. He's asked that you remind everyone that the Spirit of Philadelphia tickets are still available. That's for September 14th, and it's only $50 to get a show, down the river, the whole, it's a good time. The meal. So for $50 you can have a really nice day. And at the tennis camp for the week of August 19th, it's $10 for Borough residents and $20 for non-Borough residents. And that's all that he's asked.
Thank you, Sarah. Unless there are any questions concerning that part of the agenda, we'll move on to Finance and Library Council, and Peter Williamson.
I'll start out with a library announcement. I'm the liaison to the library. All of us Borough Council people attach ourselves to different community organizations, the important ones in the community. I go to the board meetings, and the purpose of being a liaison is sort of to serve as a conduit of information between the two sides. And I met with the new board chair this week, Sharon Vandegrift, who is a Media Borough resident. And she was telling me that her goal really is to develop the board. There's only about, I think, 7 members right now. There's at least 2 open seats for Media Borough residents on the library board. It's a great institution, and it needs great people to make it even better. So I encourage all of you, any of you that are listening, to consider it seriously. It's an interesting place to work. It's on the cutting edge of our community. So I encourage you to do so. Okay. 2 more prosaic matters are our finances. They're, as usual, in fairly good condition. As of the end of July, we have received about 64% of the revenue we expect to receive all year, which is a little ahead of what it would be if it were just straightly prorated. And our operating expenses are at 48%. So there's a big swing there, which is about $1.4 million of cash we haven't spent that we expected to spend. Now, what happens in the fall is we pay for our pensions. And that bill at this current rates is about $1 million. So that surplus we have is going to fall down pretty rapidly to about $400,000, which is about roughly where our surpluses run from year to year. So we don't know exactly what will happen and what surprises may come to what we've had in the past, which is a good thing. Next, and my one requirement tonight is to ask for approval for the payment of July's bills. That month, we drew from the general fund $238,208.51. From the recreation fund, $5,132.38. From the capital fund, $83,707.49. I move approval of July's bills.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? There is.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Before I call the question, I think the capital fund was $83,717.49. I think you're wrong by $10.
My apologies, Mr. President, and I can see why you have the exalted position you do.
Nice. All right, so I assume that you were willing to...
I amend my motion
Okay.
accordingly.
The
Thank you.
seconder is willing to second the amended motion? I think that's you, Sarah.
Oh, second.
Okay, good. All those in favor of approving the payment of the borough's bills for the month of July 2019 in the amount specified by Councilman Williamson, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Every year at this time, we also do something called a mid-year budget update. Our budget literally has hundreds of line items, some small, some very large. And, you know, as in the course of human events, some things go off askew slightly. So we have to correct them in the mid-year. So we have that. Everyone has it in the form of a resolution in your Dropbox account. The 2 main things that changed, a lot of things were just minor adjustments here and there, but the main things that changed was the wayfinding proposal that we just adopted or just agreed to proceed to is going to be a 2-year project, and we had in the budget it as a 1-year project. So we had over $900,000 in there. We don't need it all, and that's a good thing because we had to fix the parking garage, and we didn't expect to. So the 2 of them kind of balance each other out. It's about $400,000 or $500,000 each, one in the positive, one in the negative. So that's the major adjustments that we made. But in the end, when you look at all the little adjustments we made, the budget is still in balance. And so I move approval of the mid-year budget update.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting Resolution 2019-25, our mid-year budget update, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
And for that, I have to again thank the borough staff for the preparation of the mid-year budget update. They do all the work here, and they're excellent. We have an excellent addition in Jim Siemens, who's been doing a lot of this budget work for us and is doing a great job, so thank you. My last action item is a request for the rest of the Borough Council to join me in resolving to apply to Delaware County for an open space grant. We haven't had the opportunity to do this for many years. Delaware County has, in its wisdom, decided to put its toe in the water with an open space program. You can go to the county and get grants of up to, I think, 25% of the total project cost for projects up to $500,000 if you're buying land, I think. A little bit less if you're developing a park. But you can also submit for professional services if you want to do a plan. Any of you that have been paying attention to the Borough Council in the past months know that it's our intention to do an open space plan. But we received no bids the first time we set it out, largely because we didn't budget enough to do it. We had a big scope and not enough money. So we're going to put salt a little bit more of our own money in and ask the county for a 25% match and thereby raise the budget and solicit greater interest. So I recommend approve this motion.
Excellent. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting Resolution 2019-26, which will authorize the submission of an open space plan grant under the Delaware County monies made available, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
That concludes my report.
Are there any questions for Councilman Williamson? Hearing none, we'll move along to Councilman Sarah.
Yes. I have no action items for today. However, I did discover that I missed something last month. I had set it aside and got caught on a paper clip. This concerns a couple of our residents. It's just Widener's posted the promotion of tenure faculty, and one of those was for the School of Nursing, Paula Gray of Media, and I like to say yay. And Anita Singh of Media was promoted to associate professor. That's an award type of thing for the School of Engineering. Yay! And I'm sorry it's a month late, but it was in the spirit of my newspaper, and
Well, they're still tenured.
Yes. Thank goodness. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilwoman Dixon. Does anyone have any questions for Councilwoman Dixon? Hearing none. Thank you all. We'll move along to public comment and privilege of the floor. If there's anyone here who's not been thoroughly exhausted by the evening's events, please come forward to the microphone. Tell us your name, where you live, and what's on your mind.
I'm not exhausted just yet. Michael Straw, 499 West Jefferson Street, apartment 507. I was just wondering if I could ask Councilman Williamson when we would possibly hear back from the county regarding the open space grant.
The grants are due in early September. I think it's the 9th, and they have a really pretty quick turnaround time. My recollection is it's around Halloween, so it's pretty quick. So we'll know before the end of the year.
Well, that sounds good. They'll be able to say boo when we get one. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address council at this time? Seeing that there are no other takers, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. The ayes appear to have it. So good night, folks, and see you next month.